Question 5. A basket containing 3 gold-plated marbles, 4 diamond marbles, and some silver marbles, all of the same size and shape. 2 marbles were drawn from the basket at random, one after the other, without replacement. Note this word, without replacement. This particular phrase is very important in probability, without replacement. If the probability that the 2 marbles were all silver is 1/15, find the number of silver marbles. Well, this is a technical probability question. It's not a straight question, and it's not the usual one, but it is not too hard to solve because they use the word some silver marbles. We're not actually given a numeric value, like for this one we're given 4, this one we're given 3. For this particular silver marbles we're given some, so we have to use a particular letter to solve this question. So it's basic principle behind probability, but it's technical. And also note the word without replacement. Let's start to write out all the data we can get from this. A basket contains 3 gold-plated marbles. So let's say gold-plated marbles G. Let's represent it with G. There are 3 of them. Diamond, that's D. There are 4 of them. And silver, S. There are X of them. Hence the question says some silver marbles, all of the same size and shape. 2 marbles were drawn from the basket at random, one after the other, without replacement. That means after taking each one out, it wasn't replaced back into the basket. That means when you take it out, your total outcome for the second set will drop by 1. Let's just go into the question so we understand better. If the probability that 2 marbles were all silver is 1/15, find the number of silver marbles. You have probability 2 silver marble is 1/15. Now in a usual probability question, we're asked to find the probability of 2 silver marbles. Or here we're given the probability as 1/15. Now we're doing a reverse probability to get the value of our silver marbles. Now in this case, we're just doing a reverse. So we know in a normal situation, you get probability 2 silver balls is probability the first silver ball and probability the second silver ball. Probability 2 silver balls is probability the first silver ball. The word and in probability is always synonymous, or it means multiplication, so we know it as times probability second silver ball. Now we've been given the answer as 1/15, so we have this as 1/15 equals, now the probability of first silver ball, since there are 2 silver balls picked, you pick the first silver ball, then another silver ball, that's the second one, and they use the word without replacement, so we should be careful with this word. For the first one, probability first silver ball, we know is going to be total number of silver balls, which is X, over the total number of balls. The total number of balls we have here is T, which is 3 plus 4 plus X, which is 7 plus X. This is like an algebra. We add the numbers, then we add the X to it. So we have it as probability first silver is total number of silver balls over the total number of marbles, which is 7 plus X. We added the gold marbles plus the diamond marbles, then the silver, which is represented by X, to be 3 plus 4, that's 7. We can't directly add X to 7, so we leave it as total number of marbles will be 7 plus X times, for the second silver ball, since it is without replacement. This is where without replacement is very important. That means if we have taken the first silver ball, since we have taken the first silver marble, let's say there were 8 silver marbles. If we've taken 1 out of it, you'll be left with 7. Now for the second probability, we'll be working with 7, and if our total was 20, now the total will drop to 19. That's 7/19. We know our normal probability. Now in this case, we've taken out the first silver ball. That means the new total silver balls we have will now be X minus 1. And in this case, we had to drop from 8 to 7. That's X minus 1 over, this is the technicality in the question. the total number of balls will now drop from 7 plus x to 6 plus x. If you get it, that's 6 plus x, because it will drop by 1 since we've taken one silver marble from the total. So the total will drop from 7 plus x to 6 plus x, or it might be 7 plus x minus 1, which is also 6 plus x. Now we know this question has now turned into an algebra where we can find the value for x. Now we'll just do our algebra. It is no longer probability, and since this question has been solved before, it's going to lead into a quadratic equation. So from probability to quadratic equation, this is a very complex question. Not really hard, but just complex. So we have 1 over 15 equals, on this other side we have x times x minus 1x over 7 plus x in bracket, then you have 6 plus x close bracket. We have 1 over 15 equals, you do x times x and x times 1. X times x is x squared minus x times 1, that's x, over, we can choose to repeat this twice, then give the first one 6 and the next one plus x, or can just open the bracket. Let's just do it for understanding's sake. You have 6 plus x, 6 plus x in bracket. You can choose to repeat this 7 plus x twice to the same thing, you get same answer. And in this case, since we repeated 6 plus x twice, so this 7 and this x will be shared with the two of them. So we'll have 7 on this side plus x on this side, and we'll expand. So we have 1 over 15 equals x squared minus x over 7 times 6, because this 7 affects the 6 and the x. So we have 7 times 6, 42, and 7 times x is 7x. Then you have x times 6 and x times x. So x times 6 is 6x, x times x is x squared. At this point we can simplify this part. So we have 1 over 15 equals x squared minus x over 42, then 7x plus 6x. 7 plus 6, then you add the x to the answer. So 7 plus 6 is 13. So we have plus 13x plus x squared. You know they are like terms, and the fact that this is x doesn't mean it's a like term to this. It's squared, so it's from another family, though they have x. At this point we can now cross multiply. So we have it as 1 times 42 plus 13x plus x squared. Anything times 1 is that number. So on this side we have 42 plus 13x plus x squared equals, on the other side we have 15 times x squared minus x. So we have 15 into open bracket x squared minus x. You have to be careful. Students will make mistake multiplying this 15 by just this x squared. You know, this 15 affects the two of them. So we'll go to the next line. We have 42 plus 13x plus x squared equals 15x squared minus 15, this 15 times this x, so we have 15x. Next thing is to collect like terms, or bring all of them into one side. And since we're having 15x squared, I'd rather bring this plus x squared to this side, so I don't have a negative x squared. So we have it as 15x squared, then the plus x squared goes over the equals to sign. I've always told you, in cases like this, the positive or the negative sign in front of an algebraic expression or a number is always owned by that expression or that number. So we have a positive sign in front of it. It goes over the equals to sign and turns to minus x squared. Then we have minus 15x. Still on this side, we're moving everything to the other side, since we don't want our x squared to be negative. We take this plus 13x over the equals sign, it turns to minus 13x. Then this 42 has a plus, since there's no negative or a positive sign written in front of it. It's positive, so we'll take it over the equals sign and turns to minus 42. We have 15x squared minus x squared is like saying minus 1x squared. Those are the like terms. So we have 15 minus 1 with the x squared, that's 14x squared. Then we have minus 15x minus 13x. That will give us minus 28x. You're owing and you're owing. You can use your calculator to do minus 15 minus 13. You get minus 28, then just add your x. Then you have minus 42. equals 0, because we still have our equals to sign, and still, since there's nothing here on this other side, we have 0 left. Now this has now turned into a quadratic equation, our usual quadratic equation. Take this 14 and this minus 42, we'll multiply them and get the value for which we will then find two numbers that will multiply to get us the minus the negative answer, then adding them will then give us minus 28. If you have a good eye, you should try and see if this 14 or a value, maybe 2, can go through all of them. And since this question has been solved before, for it to make it to the lowest term and we can solve with ease, we divide all through by 14. 14 can go through all of them and get it to a lower term. So we divide all through by 14. Although we can solve without dividing all through by 14, we'll still get the same answer. But it is best to bring it down to the lowest term. 14 cancels 14, we have x squared minus 14 here 1. 14 in 28 is 2. So we have 2x minus 14 divided by 42 will give you 3. You can say 0 over 14, which is still 0. Now that we brought it down to the lowest term, we can then solve the quadratic equation. So we have it as the coefficient of x is 1, so we are not really bothered about it if it's plus 1. All we're bothered about is this constant, which is minus 3. So two numbers that will multiply to give us minus 3, yet when we add them, it gives us minus 2. So we have 3 times 1, that will give us 3, yet we know when we add them together, it gives us 4. The difference between them is 2. That means one of them will have to get the negative. Now, since we are looking for minus 2, when we add them together, that means you should owe more than you own. That means the bigger number should get the negative for you to get minus 2. So we'll put our minus here. So you have minus 3 times 1 will give you minus 3. Then you have minus 3 plus 1. That means you're owing 3, you're having 1. By the time you pay back, you still be owing 2. That gives you minus 2. It's like a puzzle where you find two numbers that will multiply to give you the constant, or the constant multiplied by the coefficient of the x squared, and yet when we add them, they give us the coefficient of the x in the middle. So we have it as minus 3 and plus 1. We can choose to write the plus 1 first or write the minus 3 first. Your choice, you still get the same answer. So we have it as x squared minus 3x plus x, or 1x. You add x to both of them, plus x, we can write 1x minus 3 equals 0. That means we've broken down this minus 2x into these two values, minus 3x and plus x. So we can group them in 2's now. Next we factorize. In x squared and minus 3x, something is common. X is common. So we have 2 x's here, we take 1, and you have another x here, you take it. So you'll be x into open bracket. You'll be left with, like saying x squared over x. That's same thing as x times x over x. 1x cancels 1x, you'll be left with x. You have minus 3x over x. X will cancel x, you'll be left with 3. Close bracket. And note that when you multiply this x by this, it gives you x squared. And this x by this minus 3 gives you this. So we're just factorizing. Looking at the other part of the bracket, which is this, there's nothing really common in both except 1. Since 1 is common in them, you can just bring out plus 1. Make sure it's plus 1, because you're not trying to change the sign. If you bring out minus 1, you change the sign of both the plus x and the minus 3. So you still leave it as x minus 3 or plus x minus 3 equals 0. Once these two in the bracket are the same, that means you're correct or you're on the right path. So you pick one of them, x minus 3 in bracket, then open the second bracket. You join the x plus 1 together. You have x plus 1, close brackets, equals 0. Then you say x minus 3 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. X, then minus 3 crosses the equals sign, it turns to 3 or plus 3, or x plus 1 crosses the equals sign, it turns to minus 1. I know we are looking for the number of silver marbles. I know we can't get a negative for the number of silver marbles, so this is not our answer. But this is our answer, so we have 3 silver marbles as our final answer.